Why hello you amazing beautiful people, and welcome back to another AniNews solo leveling cut content reaction video. I'm going to say this before I even jump into this reaction. I'm currently recovering from like a throat infection. It's still quite bad, so I'm not going to be that loud. You guys, this whole recording batch of videos is going to be me like a bit quieter. I have all the energy. I just need to make sure I reel it in, because the other day when I recorded a reaction like bulk of videos, I didn't reel it in, and I just totally messed up my throat even worse. So I'm gonna have to do my best. Hopefully there's nothing too hype in this video. AniNews has been doing an absolutely incredible job with these cut content videos, so please shout out to AniNews. Link to their channels in the description. It's been amazing watching them just like grow even faster over these last couple of weeks. And episode 5 of solo leveling was interesting because it was definitely like a build-up episode for episode 6. So I'm curious to see what was left out of that build-up. Let's find out. Press that like button, press that subscribe button if you want more reactions like this. And let's jump into my first time ever reaction to Solo Leveling Season 2 Episode 5's Cut Content.
It feels like so much has happened since Sung started working as Miner. This last episode was actually the most faithful. Only 4 chapters were covered from the manhwa, and a solid amount of time was spent focusing on the B team here. Like, it's not often a character other than Sung gets to shine in the spotlight, but in this battle with the High Orcs, it seems like everyone did. What then did the anime leave out? Well, there's the whole reason he even signed up to do this work. The significance of permits making these gates properties of the Hunters Guild, then
I definitely feel like that is something that's going to be interesting to explore, because people in my comment section were explaining this to me, because I was wondering why Jinwoo wasn't getting involved, and obviously he says it like in episode 6 why, but it's so vague like that it doesn't feel like a good reason, you know? He's just standing there watching people die. Obviously no one died, but you know what I mean. It's like it feels like it needs to be more significantly explained. So I'm already curious about that, because a few people in my comment section were telling me like that's why he wasn't getting involved, because of the ownership of dungeons is like quite significant. And I was like, I don't really understand why though. Like, surely you still would. So I'm actually curious.
Do this work? The significance of permits making these gates properties of the Hunters Guild, then a bunch of smaller details like Cha's curiosity and Sung's full involvement here. Let's get started. Episode 17. This is what we're trained to do. Covering chapters 67 to 71 from the manhwa and chapters 82 to 88 from the novel. To start things at the beginning of Sung's mining stint, if you're wondering why manual labor is used instead of heavy machinery, it all comes down to the fact modern technology doesn't work here. Anything running on electricity ceases to operate, so instead workers are given magic-infused items like this pickaxe. Now, there was a small interaction cut between the foreman and the guild's administrator,
I didn't know that.
Involving the foreman complaining that the
items were magic-infused either.
This was something the admin could only apologize for, since in every guild, all other teams were at the mercy of the raid team. Reason being that, where miners were very easy to replace, key strikes...
Random question, we're gonna see Gina again, right? Like, obviously that's gonna be the main love interest of the entire anime, yeah? Right? Sung Jinwoo and Gina? Ride off into the sunset together? Yeah? Yeah, that's definitely what's gonna happen, right? Yeah, you guys don't even need to tell it, don't worry. I know that's what's gonna happen.
Squad members weren't. It's for this reason that guild employees would always do their best to accommodate the raid team. Their moods were something every part of the guild needed to be aware of. It was when the strike squad finally did return that, aside from Choi, Sung couldn't distinguish anyone as particularly powerful. Their difference in power was so stark that it made him think perhaps they were the weak ones. This obviously wasn't true though, since someone like Choi wouldn't raid with someone who was weak. No. All this was a matter of perspective. Sung's leveling had made him stronger, and he was now at a point where he was powerful enough to consider the #1 strike squad in the country weak. It was an observation Sung himself couldn't believe he was making. When Cha had come out next, you'd be...
What about the #1 strike squad in the world? How high up is the Korean strike squad to where the rest of them are?
He's surprised to know this was actually the first time Sung would lay eyes on her. As a hunter who tended to stay far away from the spotlight, not many clear photos existed of her. So here would be the first time Sung would get a good look at her.
And a good look he did.
She didn't investigate further into the powerful aura she sensed was mainly because doing so would have required strengthening the foul odor she picked up. That was a sensation she preferred not to indulge in, resulting in her disregarding the aura as nothing.
You know what I find bizarre? The fact that she uses a cloth to hide her, like, you know, nose or whatever. When you'd think at this point she'd have some sort of device. You know, she's like part of the top guild in the country. part of the strike squad, like the leading strike squad of that guild. She must be loaded. There must be some kind of device she can just clip to her nose that like stops it, right?
It was once Sung finally got into the gate himself that every part of its conquest would be imprinted into his brain.
What was we looking at there? Was that a
after
body?
all, the whole reason he came out here. He wanted to see how a high-level guild went about completing a high-rank dungeon. So, first was the raid team wiping out all monsters minus the boss. Next was the retrieval team dragging out all the monster remains.
Yeah,
After
monster
that
remains,
was the mining
okay.
team to extract all minerals and resources, then finally the raid team again to kill the boss and close the gate. This was the 4-stage process that allowed guilds to maximize the amount of profits they could make. Mana stones and magic crystals were always nice, but where the real money was at was with the monster corpses.
I feel like this has been explained before, but I was literally just about to ask, like, what do they use the corpses for? Is it like just like harvesting them down and like, I don't know, like making medicine or some random crap? But like, I'm guessing it's about to be explained right now, but I was wondering. And I know it has been explained before, but I can't remember.
That was the difference between a high-ranked dungeon and a low-ranked one. Everything in the high-ranked one was worth something.
Also, if this is an A-ranked dungeon, how rare and how fucking dangerous are S-ranked dungeons?
Whether it be bones or flesh, there wasn't a single part of a high-ranked monster which couldn't be sold for tons of money. So it was as Sung contemplated how he would do this himself that he would come to realize his shadows could do all of it just fine. He could divide them into 3 separate groups, then have one hunt, another retrieve, and another mine. I mean, his shadows were far stronger than any of the workers, so it wouldn't make sense to really hire any.
It was his own little mining group.
Conclusion he could conquer.
So let me get this straight. Sung Jin Woo gets an army of shadows and decides to play Minecraft with them. So Sung Jin Woo is really just a geek like the rest of us who just wants some bros to play Minecraft with. You know what? I feel like I relate to him more now than ever.
A high-ranked dungeon all by himself, making the whole job as a miner worth it. He had acquired the valuable information he was hoping to. Sung would then ask questions as to why no one was nervous about the boss, to which the foreman would cite how, until a dungeon break, the boss almost always stayed inside its boss room. This was nothing more than a commonly accepted belief, but in the 3 years the foreman had been working, the boss had never escaped on him once. If it did, then everyone in the dungeon would die for sure. So, Sung could only think how lucky it was to live in such ignorance, since if he could only sense what it was he was sensing, his whole body would be trembling from the boss's immense presence. Only those who've experienced a boss could truly understand how terrifying they are. Now, this next part isn't really all that important, but if you're wondering how it is Sung became so good at mining, it's because he analyzed the way one of the veterans did it. He slowed down time to perceive their movements as best he could, then observed everything from their posture, breathing patterns, and muscle activation.
No, that's a lie. That's crap. He played Minecraft like the rest of us. That's how all of us are amazing at mining. You would be surprised. It's a true story, though.
He would then copy what he saw to a T, and even refine it where his abilities would allow him to. In only a few moments, he'd become a mirror image of the veteran he was copying.
Is that why there was two of them standing next to each other at that point?
Wasn't planning on doing anything, but like an addict on drugs.
Because when he was swinging the pickaxe, we saw like someone standing next to him doing it in the exact same fashion. Or is that supposed to signify that that's the one he learned from?
He couldn't help but at least see the boss. It was a giant humanoid staring menacingly in the background. A massive chunk of levels Sung salivated at the sight of. Cha stepping in reminded Sung of the grave mistake he was about to make, since to steal a guild's loot was one of the worst things any hunter could do. Remember, these gates aren't just dungeons to be cleared, but are also massive financial investments too. Legally, this wasn't Sung's property, and to kill the boss would deny the Hunters Guild a large portion of what was rightfully theirs. The financial losses would be immense for them. Cha's presence also went to highlight the difference between hunters and laborers, because laborers never got to see just how dangerous monsters could be. It's because Cha and Sung did, though, that only Sung could truly appreciate what it was she was doing for them. What I mean is that if the boss did somehow break free, she wouldn't be the one in danger. No, the workers were the ones fully at risk here. How then can they relax and have a laugh while doing such work? Well, that was only possible because of Cha. Not only did she make sure they didn't come close to the boss, she also made sure they couldn't even detect its mana waves. So all this was—
How does she do that? Can normal people detect mana waves? Wait, is everyone in there's been awakened, right? Because they said what rank he was, or are they not? Some of them just random laborers. The reason I'm asking this is because, like, how can they have the mana waves blocking thing? What the hell? How does that even work? That wasn't explained. Also, it does go to show that she does seem different compared to the rest of the hunters. She seems like much more compassionate, weirdly quiet. Obviously, that could be your classic anime cliches, you know, they've just thrown in there, but it could be something more, you know?
She also made sure they couldn't even detect its mana waves. So all this was her showing concern for complete strangers.
Yeah.
She was sacrificing rest she very much deserved, and that left the impression that she was pretty amazing. To explain more about Cha's smell now, it's something the novel describes as a special constitution, a specialized sense that hunters gain when awakening. Choi exhibited it when being able to hear the commotion back here, and even Sung had his hearing enhanced when he first awakened. So, a special constitution wasn't as rare as you might think it was for hunters. Cha's case is a bit more of a peculiar one though, since while she never did find a reason for hunters smelling, a doctor did hypothesize that the higher their rank, the worse their smell was. This could explain why Sung's was tolerable, but it didn't explain why his was pleasant. It was a train of thought that led her to think maybe this could be the person to unravel the mystery behind the special constitution tormenting her. In a world where every person you work with smells so bad you want to puke, it was only natural she want to seek out the exception. So
yeah, it literally is like the storyline to True Blood. I won't go into it too much. It doesn't even Twilight have something weird like this. But yeah, I don't want to spoil too much. So I won't talk about True Blood anymore. I do wonder though, because Sung Jin-woo, we've literally seen monsters interact with him weirdly. Like, talk about his presence being off, talk about him... I mean, even when he, like, comes with the elf guy, doesn't he, like, say something about him not being amongst the right people? Like, him with the hunters doesn't make sense or something like that? So there's definitely more to Jin-woo. I feel like Jin-woo is somehow sitting between monster and hunter. Somewhere in that grey area. Because monsters... He confuses the fuck out of monsters, and also his scent isn't the same as hunters.
So it was that same night that Cha began to worry she might never be able to see Sung again, up until she remembered he was part of the mining team. Since he was likely to be at the A-rank raid tomorrow, she figured it shouldn't be weird to just drop in and check up on him. She was the guild's vice chairman after all. So that was a thought that left her more relaxed than usual.
Yeah, very relaxed.
Switching back to Sung, his unique smell had left him thinking more about what it meant to be a player again. As the only one receiving special benefits from the system, he started to think more carefully about his unique status and overall identity.
Yeah.
It was a thought he didn't spend too much time on though, since with little new information, he knew he wasn't gonna figure anything out now anyway.
I like that, because this is like a thought he wouldn't spend much time on. It's like, well, he should. It's very, like, fucking important. And then they're just like, but you didn't have any more information. It's like that logical way of thinking where it's like, I don't really have any more information, so I'm not going to be able to figure out this riddle, and just moves on from it. It's like, Jesus.
It was just a matter of being cognizant of who he was. When Sung went to go talk to the foreman next, their discussion would reveal just how significant back-to-back A-rank gates were. This wasn't something that happened often, and even if it did, the association wasn't the type to hand out both permits to the same buyer. So when 2 A-rank gates showed up in the Hunter Guild's territory, Choi went straight to the association to plead his case. It's actually why he was there when Sung was getting reassessed. He was convincing Chairman Go to give his guild both permits, securing an opportunity no guild had ever had before. This certainly increased the risk of failure, but it was that prospect which made Sung all the more interested. Because there was a chance the raid could fail, Sung felt the potential for action was worth it.
Yeah,
sure, he'd already
that's
gained
interesting.
the valuable
That is some nice information
but
there.
with nothing else to do, this was at least something.
And like the back-to-back A-rank dungeons being bizarre and like uncommon like that is interesting. I wonder if that is actually just a random coincidence that Jimmy was part of, or if there's more to it as well.
He was actually quite
never tell with
excited
this
by the
anime.
potential of what could be, since while he wasn't wishing for Strike Team B to make a mistake, he also wouldn't be upset if they did. Of course, Sung didn't think it was very likely though, since the association didn't just hand out permits to anyone. There was a reason high-ranked gates had a higher success rate than low-ranked ones.
True again,
Either
yeah.
way, whatever happens, the end result was best for someone. A successful raid
Best for
meant
Gina.
good news for everyone, while
for Gina,
a
yeah.
failed raid meant a high-ranked
no.
monster farm all for himself. The latter was definitely a long shot, but once again, the potential for it was the core reason behind him showing up again. Now, there was actually a decently sized cutscene involving Jinho and his cousin,
Looks
but
like
this is
Power
one of the few that I think
from
the
Chainsaw
anime will
Man.
get to next episode. It just seems like too big of a scene to leave out, and it's one that can be placed into the narrative later. Just know if they don't cover it, then I'll be sure to come back to it.
Okay.
Moving on to the day of. While this initial greeting wasn't cut content,
Well, AniNews did a very good job there, not spoiling something, but hyping me up to meet this cousin properly, you know? The cousin who looks a lot like Power from Chainsaw Man.
was a scene I'm happy they included. For a character whose increased power makes it harder for him to associate with people, to remember who he was before it really helps to humanize him. It separates the part of him that's obsessed with leveling and reminds us he is still a human with emotions.
I definitely feel like episode 5 and 6 did a good job at this, because I have been talking about the fact that Sung Jin-woo seems like this emotionless, just fucking robot at this point. So I feel like these episodes did a much better job at highlighting the fact that he does still feel emotions, and he is still emotionally invested and involved, and we got to see that based on a lot of his facial expressions and reactions, which I liked. His little smile.
The whole greeting was so heartwarming that even Sung felt he could get used to it. When Ki-hoon came to recruit someone to be their porter next, the reason the hauling team couldn't spare anyone on their end was because the mining team finishing early yesterday forced them to have to work overtime. I don't know if it was out of a mindset of keeping up, but all the haulers had to skip dinner last night. So today they had no labor to spare.
I see.
Naturally, no one wanted to risk their lives either, and that alone risked the success of the raid itself. With the search for a porter potentially going into the afternoon, there was a chance that the entire day could be lost. That's when Ki-hoon would notice Sung staring him down, clearly analyzing him and his unique physique as a tanker. Though their eye contact was brief, it was only after Sung had finished that Ki-hoon realized his entire body froze up. Sung's gaze had caused him to forget to even breathe.
Really?
Of course,
I like
didn't
that.
realize this himself, so he instead chalked it up to nerves. It's an intense scene that definitely would have been cool to see in the anime.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Another
I like
interaction left out between them here was the way Ki-hoon analyzed Sung himself.
I don't think it's needed,
Though
though.
little magical energy could be sensed coming from him, Sung's aura indicated he wasn't who he said he was.
I do find it interesting to the idea of if Jinwoo is ever going to be able to like hide his aura, you know, if that's something that he could like maybe do later down the line, like shield it, mask it, and hide it from people, so he can always like, you know, mislead people in his like strength and ranking, because that's something that doesn't seem possible at the moment, especially from other like S rank hunters. So I wonder if that will be something that he can do later down the line.
It was fully under control and so very sharp. Made it clear Sung wasn't the E rank he claimed to be. Of course, the foreman had no reason to lie, so Ki-hoon just figured something else was up. Besides, the rank of the porter didn't even matter anyway. If the porter was getting attacked, then the raid was a failure to begin with. Everyone would have been destined to die regardless of his rank. It's a conclusion that stems from an interesting saying the healer girl mentions in the manhwa. If the mages get attacked, it's the tank's fault. If the healers get attacked, it's the strike squad's fault, and if the porter gets attacked, it's the guild's fault. What this means is that, unless there's an extremely serious mix-up, Sung should be completely safe. If he did—
I actually like that scene that they just showcased there, which is when, like, Jinwoo walks forward, the girl looks at him and he, like, looks the other way, obviously not wanting to have a conversation.
There's an extremely serious mix-up, Sung should be completely safe. If he did somehow become the target of an attack, then that would be a problem stemming from the source. It would mean his entire strike squad was eliminated, and that would mean this was a gate they weren't qualified to handle. It's something that should never happen given the gate's ranking system. Now, the full strike squad was 11A ranks.
And despite that, we have seen multiple fuck-ups recently around the gates and the ranking system, so—
And 6B ranks, so there was a lot more hunters than we saw in the anime. This also made Sung feel a lot more calm, since even if they did step foot into a red gate, the hunters alongside him were the ones he'd want to be stuck in a red gate with.
Not only is Gina fantastic, but I kind of want to learn more about the one in the blue and black there. You know, she looks kind of cool.
But into a red gate, the hunters alongside him were the ones he'd want to be stuck in a red gate with.
They look well cool, actually. The one in the back looks like the main dude from the Ninja Gaiden games back in the day.
Since he was, after all, here for fun.
He
felt zero need to be alert 24/7 when amongst some of the best hunters in the country. It was once inside that, in addition to the conversation the healer girl was making already, she would also offer to help Sung carry stuff. Sung would hand her just one of the bottles, and the weight alone was enough to almost topple her over. It was a good laugh that made Sung reminisce on when last he was able to enjoy himself in a dungeon. The jackals would then reveal the presence of intelligent beasts awaiting beyond, but not before getting the raid group to lower their guard a bit. They were so thrown off by this low-ranking monster that each and every one of them forgot the most basic rules of not raising their voice. They had eased up so much that they were now talking like they weren't even in a dungeon.
Oh, dear.
It's when the High Orcs showed up after this that not much really needs to be mentioned. The anime portrayed this far better than I could have ever imagined, and even gave us a little nod to SAO with this one.
Oh,
The healer girl
I
did tell
like
Sung
it.
to stay hidden, and
Didn't
that
even
was a comment
notice.
which genuinely went to piss him off a bit. I guess it was a case of her not knowing who she was talking to.
Wait, the healer girl saying you should remain hidden pissed him off? They don't... Anyway. Why, bro? It feels like fairly obvious that she would say that.
Piss him off a bit. I guess it was a case of her
Come
not
on,
knowing
Jinwoo.
who she was talking to.
She's looking
The
out for
healer
you, bro.
girl then has what I think is the best moment of the entire episode, but the way it goes down in the novels is actually with her hugging and shielding her patient. Both have her accept her fate courageously, so I think it's that depiction of her understanding what she signed up for that really went to appeal to me.
Oh,
Now,
I like
Sung
it.
was initially waiting for the raid to fail completely, but after realizing failure meant a significant loss of life, that's when he decided to step in preemptively. He would smile as he danced around orc after orc, taking out the
Literally
ones that wouldn't be
dancing.
noticed. His stealth granted him a bit of relief too, since if anyone saw the smile he had on his face right now, they would for sure think he was at the very least crazy.
Yeah, true.
His intensity only doubled when he
Crazy.
received a level up, since that revealed supporting was a viable way of gaining experience too. It seemed assisting in killing the orcs netted him XP as well. He could have gained more levels if he was able to kill them all, but Sung decided to respect the gate was theirs and not his. It was, after all, purchased for quite a large sum of money. In the end, the strike squad couldn't believe what they had accomplished, leading to a loud celebration Sung didn't really understand. What he didn't realize, though, was that when committing to a high-rank gate such as this, the hunters took into consideration not only the gate's ranking, but also the most minute details regarding how much magic energy was being emitted from it.
Okay.
They did this so they could know with a certain level of confidence what to expect. So, when the most superior version of High Orcs showed up in a pack of 20, that was far beyond what they had calculated. All of them were expecting to face at least 1 or 2 casualties. The fact they didn't was nothing short of a miracle, and it's that
Oh, that was the celebration. This whole time I was trying to understand why Sung Jin-woo was confused at the celebrations. And I thought it was him thinking, like, why are they celebrating when, like, I helped, you know? But that doesn't make sense because obviously he did it in stealth. But now I'm realizing the reason they were celebrating is because they didn't die. And they were just, like, happy they didn't die. And he doesn't understand that. Okay. I didn't understand it either, to be honest.
that miracle which Sung remains completely oblivious to.
Yeah, I didn't
He
realize
may
it
have
either.
been the cause of that miracle, but the true extent of his help would remain completely lost to him.
Yeah, okay.
When the healer girl stepped up to describe what she saw after this, she was actually met with disbelief and borderline ridicule. Reason being that her description of the events were full-on outlandish. An orc ripping off its own head, then killing another with said head was hardly something anyone would just believe.
Yeah, I agree. She
It
sounds
was as
crazy.
she
Definitely
did
didn't
that
happen.
Sung could only chuckle. Then when she came up to ask him about it personally, it took a lot of effort to deny it without snickering right in front of her. It seems Sung in the novel goes a bit hard with the disrespect towards this healer girl.
Oh.
I mean, even in the manhwa, he's seen to make light of her dramatic action here.
So you're telling me that the one person who was nice to him, who helped him carry things, who was looking after him, who selflessly wanted to sacrifice herself, was the one he was a dick to? Bro. But yeah, her trying to tell her story is hilarious. Like anyone would believe. Yeah, that orc just ripped off his own head, and then with its decapitated body beat the shit out of that orc with its head. What do you mean get the straight jacket? How do you not believe what I'm saying?
Even in the manhwa, he's seen to make light of her dramatic action here. I actually preferred the way the anime handled this though, since while this whole endeavor may not have been serious for Sung, it truly was life or death for the rest of them. To them, they fully believed they were making the ultimate sacrifice, a serious sentiment well contrasted with Sung's flashback to the double dungeon. In any case, I would be lying if I said the fact they couldn't leave didn't make Sung happy. Even
I also kind of love that, like, they were trying to protect him all the way to the end, you know?
though Ki-hoon made the decision to retreat, Sung really wanted to stay and continue fighting. So when 50 more orcs showed up to challenge them, Sung once again started to salivate at the amount of experience he was about to get.
He's such a
Before
weirdo.
he knew it, he had already instinctively summoned his dagger behind his back. Now wasn't the right time to attack, but this was definitely the moment he'd been waiting for. Even his shadows could be sensed yearning for bloodshed. The rest was then pretty much as we saw, bringing us to that perfect sequence introducing the boss room.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but the way they panned us in while blaring Hiroyuki's music really set the tone for the grand fight waiting ahead of us.
Yeah.
It was this combined with those amazing fight sequences from earlier that solidified episode 5 as the best of season 2 so far.
So good.
But yeah, that's everything from episode 17. Now, this was really hard for me to make. If I sounded a bit weird, it's because I've been pretty sick lately, so that's why this video ended up taking so long. Yeah, I'll be back to my regular schedule probably next week.
Bless him,
I really
man.
just need to get some rest right now.
Bless
so
him.
I'm gonna
Bless
bed.
him.
Bye.
Bless him. I did hear that. I follow AniNews. I love AniNews' videos, and I follow AniNews. So I saw the community post on AniNews' channel where they mentioned not being very well. So bless them, bless them, bless them. I can relate. I'm feeling pretty rough recording this one as well, which I find kind of funny. AniNews not being well, me not being well, recording a reaction to AniNews not being well, making a video. It's nice, the full circle. Maybe one of you right now isn't well watching me, and then the cycle continues. I have to say, his videos are making this so much fun. I love Solo Leveling Season 2 so much. I have the best freaking time reacting to this series, but I also love these extra videos around it. I feel like these extra videos are just awesome. It's just adding more context, let me know the world a little bit more. It builds it up even more. And then that way, when the episodes come around every single Saturday, I feel like my hype is just increased between every single one. And I love how they're done. I love the extra information that's presented. I love how AniNews portrays them. I love how he talks about them. I love everything. I love it. You can tell so much research and effort goes into putting this. It almost sounds like AniNews talks about solo leveling like someone who's read it 10 times and has it all memorized, you know? You know how when you talk to people about something they're incredibly passionate about and they can literally just go on and on and on for ages and like know all the facts and all the details and everything, and they're not looking anything up, they're just talking to you. That's what he feels like. AniNews has this very nice natural nature that I feel like if I met him, sat down and spoke with him, he'd be able to say everything he just said in this video in person, you know? That's like how he comes across, which I think like is awesome, because instead of it coming across as someone who's done research, it comes across as someone who has a passion for it, which I think makes it even better. It's very cool. Episode 5 was awesome in my opinion. Episode 4 obviously being the slow one. I think at the beginning of the reaction I said 5 was a slow one, but I got it mixed up. I like the slow ones and the fast ones as well, because obviously they build each other up. But yeah, I would say so far season 2 has just been pretty freaking incredible. There hasn't been a single episode that's been dull. Everything has had like tons of information. Everything's been like very well put together. And despite the fact that a lot of people were worried about them featuring so much information, I feel like they've done a really good job at doing it, you know? So yeah, I feel like season 2 so far has just been so much fun. So much fun. And I cannot wait to see where they continue the story from here. Anyway, if you enjoyed my reaction, please press that like button. Please press that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day. And as always, my friends, you will see me in the next video.